Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Namaduhu nasalli ala Rasul al-Kareem. Viewers, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Throughout history, human beings have turned to something or someone for worship in times of difficulty, in times of helplessness. And they have turned to idols, they've turned to human beings, thinking that these objects of worship will bring them success, will take the difficulty away, will bring them happiness, joy, peace. This is part of human weakness, that human beings understand they are helpless and they must turn to someone or something for help in times of difficulty, in times of need. What Islam does is it negates all these forms of worship or forms of devotion to anyone or anything other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the first requirement of being a Muslim is La ilaha illallah, to reject all deities, all false gods, and to turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for help. We know from history that in the ancient times, people made images, they made statues, and they kept them in their houses, thinking that these will bring them good luck, bring them success in worldly matters. And that took a form of a religion. And the followers, the children and the grandchildren and the descendants, they accepted that as a form of turning to devotion to that idol or that image. And it kept on going until the time of Christianity, when people replaced the idols with the worship of a human being, where they made Isa al-Islam, Jesus, into God, thinking that if they put his picture, his statue, his images, or the cross, that will bring them success, it will bring them happiness, joy, etc. So one type of idol worship was replaced by another type of idol worship. And it continues till this day. In some situations, people turn to the worship of their race, like in the case of Hitler. He thought that it's the race that brings success, it's the race that brings joy, happiness. So all these are different forms of idol worship. And Islam rejects all forms of idol worship. And this is one of the reasons why images, statues, all these things are not favored in Islam. That's why people are not allowed to make pictures of the Prophet ﷺ. They're not allowed to keep that, because they might think that by keeping pictures in their house or by having statues in their places, they'll get good luck and success and happiness. So Islam emphasizes on deeds, not on images. That success comes from obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is a very different way of looking at worship. Whereas in other religions, the understanding, the thinking is that success comes by keeping statues, keeping images, just devotion to a certain idea, or like the Jews, for example, the glorification of a tribe, the all importance of a certain people because of their lineage. So in Islam, there is no such thing as success coming from a certain tribe or a certain race or a certain picture or a certain idea. It comes from obedience to the Creator, and it's for everybody who obeys the Creator, who follows the path as shown by Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. It will bring success. It'll bring happiness. So it's a rejection of all types of idol worship. We know from history that there was a time when Christianity was at its peak, and people thought, this was their belief, that by sticking to the images and the pictures and this concept of thinking Jesus was God, it will bring greatness to them. And it was, of course, rejected by the Europeans. The age of reason, people started thinking that this could not be right. So they rejected that form of idol worship. But they replaced that with atheism. So people rejected, they reached a level of reason, they reached a level of enlightenment, which is sometimes called the age of reason or the age of enlightenment, because they rejected this idea of idol worship, whether it was the worship of a man or of stones or images or whatever. So Christianity is basically the same idea as the previous idol worship, except that the idol now is not a person of the past. It's a prophet of God. It's a prophet who came and he lived and he performed miracles. He did great things. So the focus changed from the deeds, from the beliefs of Jesus, of Isa al-Islam, to his pictures, to his images, and the cross, and that replaced the old form of idol worship, and it became a religion by itself. So in the age of reason, the age of enlightenment, people understood that this was no more than a superstition. But they replaced this type with the worship of science, that science is the real power, that science brings success, that science brings happiness, and science brings all the good things. So that type of idol worship was rejected and was replaced by another type of idol worship. And of course, Islam rejects all types of idol worship, whether it is a worship of science, whether it's a worship of a man, whether it's a worship of an idea or a race. So the first belief is, the first part of the belief is La, which means there is no God except Allah. And this, of course, is the cornerstone, the foundation of Islam. And its requirement is that one should obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Not just say by the word of mouth, not just make a proclamation and think that's the end of the matter. By saying La ilaha illallah, Muhammad Rasulullah, a person is actually making a solemn pledge. It's a pledge of allegiance that I will obey Allah as shown by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I will not keep pictures I will not put pictures and think that's a substitute for obedience. Because a lot of people, unfortunately, even Muslims, think that just by saying the words, that's enough. It's a substitute for the practice. And this is what might be called a minor shirk, or a minor type of idol worship. So the real thing in Islam is actually to look at the negation of the ilahs and also to follow the practices of the Prophet ﷺ. So people are not supposed to keep his pictures and his images and think that is religion, that is enough to give them salvation. If that was the case, then the rich people would have had very large portraits and very large images and think they would be very blessed. But Islam rejects that. Islam rejects any kind of image or any kind of picture or any kind of what you might call idol that people might start thinking that brings them good luck or success. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given a prescription for success. So the big trial of the present times is the worship of science. Science has replaced all the other idols, and now the whole world looks on science as a way of salvation. And what science has done is that it has rejected the idea of a life after death because science doesn't know anything about that. Science has no knowledge of what happens to a person after death. So science concentrates only on this life. And the people see the benefits of science. They see the benefits that come to them in their lives. And they say, this is the real God. And if we stick to this, then we'll be successful. So this is a big trial for the people of the present time. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has shown throughout history there have always been challenges. During the time of Musa al-Islam, Moses, the big challenge was magic. The people of that time were mesmerized by magicians. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent a prophet to reject that type of idol worship. So that was a worship of magicians, or the magic. So Allah ta'ala broke the back of the magicians and showed the real power was the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Like today, people worship science in the sense that they reject the belief in God, reject the belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent a small creation, a virus, which has made people of science completely helpless. The people of science are completely helpless in the face of this. And the worshippers, the science worshippers, are looking to science for answers. And they feel very frustrated that they're not all locked in. They're going through great hardship, and their God, the God of science, is not able to help them. So this is the time that a lot of people are turning back to their old forms of idol worship. So we see in the Christian world, people are going to the churches, people are going to services, thinking that so one type of idol worship is replaced by another type of idol worship. So they think by going to the priest and by going to the churches, that will bring relief to the misery. They will get blessings. But once again, people have to be careful. It's like from the frying pan into the fire. So what Islam does is it rejects all this and says to people that if you turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with a proper belief system, with the proper deeds, with the proper way, then the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will come. And Allah will remove this calamity, as Allah has promised. And the only book that does that very clearly is the Quran. The Quran gives a prescription how to handle the calamities, how to deal with the problems, not by putting pictures and crosses and idols and stones and wood, pieces of wood. They don't do anything. There's just superstition. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given human beings reason, has given them intelligence, that this is the proper way, and He showed that in history. He showed that in history that there was a time when people did that, and they were blessed. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's help was of those people. When later times they stopped that, the help was lifted, and they had to go through misery, they had to go through humiliation. And this has been said many times before. So now the world is facing a very hard situation all over the world. The people are looking for scientists to solve the problem. Not too many people are looking to Allah to solve the problem. And some people who consider themselves religious, they're turning to the old form of idol worship, thinking that would solve the problem. And that will make it worse. It's just trying to cure the disease by, by doing something which is actually causing the disease. And human beings have to be very careful that they don't make the same mistake that they made in the past. It's a big challenge for the Muslims in the world to understand that science is not God. As science is just science. It has a role. It has the potential to help people in the material world, in the material sense. But it doesn't have the power of God. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone is able to solve the problems. And unfortunately, today, the whole world, including the Muslims, think they have more faith in science than they say they have faith in Allah, but they have most faith in science. Whatever the scientists tell them, they do that. Or whatever Allah is saying, they're not doing it. This is where the challenge comes. Like when this pandemic started, they started closing the mosques. They started closing the mosques thinking that it's going to spread from there. Now that's showing more faith in science than in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They say, well, we have to be careful. We have to close this because the disease is going to spread, because whatever the scientists are saying, they believe that as the final truth. If science has all the answers, then why is science not able to solve this? Why the whole world is in a state of lockdown? Why there are so many people suffering? So many millions and millions of people have lost their jobs. So they're waiting for science to give them the answers. Just like an idol worshiper is standing in front of the statue and he's making all kinds of devotions and nothing is happening. You see, in the past, this is what people would do. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to test those people, would give them relief. Like today, Allah may give relief to people of science. He may bring some medicine, bring some cure to give them a relief just to test them. They might start thinking, oh, you see, this is how science solves the problems. But again, that is a test from Allah. All these months, science has not been able to do anything. And this is why Rasulullah, when he came, he turned the attention of the people from all types of idol worship and turned the attention to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then the help started coming. And this is the same thing that needs to be done today. And the Muslims have to take the lead. They have to show the world that the real God, the real power is Allah, not science. The science has its role. There's no rejection of science. Islam does not reject science. Science is just a tool. It's a way to get the conveniences of life. But science is not God. Science is just like any type of idol worship that existed before. So it's a challenge for humanity. It's a challenge for the Muslims to come back to the true path and then turn to the real worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the worship of Allah doesn't mean just saying the words that I believe in Allah. It means changing the lifestyle. Today, the lifestyle of the Muslim is no different from the lifestyle of a non-Muslim. He claims to be a follower of Rasulullah, but his actions are not consistent with that. His actions are against that. What he's saying from his mouth is not what is in the heart and what's in his actions. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has promised help with the actions, not with just declarations, not with just the words. So we have to remind ourselves that we don't fall into the same trap that the previous nations fell into. They turned to some type of idol worship. So the idol worship of today is science and technology. And Muslims must seek forgiveness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and turn to the true path. وآخر الدعوانا إن الحمد لله رب العالمين.